Hi, my name is Kokui Salome Hansen. I am a singer, a voice teacher, and vocal coach, and I'm also a media personality. I work in TV and radio. And today, we're going to talk about a few tips that you can use if you find yourself with a cold or a cough and you need to speak or sing or perform publicly. So we all know how it is. The weather gets really cold, or in our parts of the world, we have something called hamatan, which is in the dry season, and the air gets really dusty and dry, and it causes a lot of respiratory issues. Now, if you're in a colder climate and you similarly get affected by the weather changes, or maybe around spring, hay fever for some of you, and it really irritates your eyes, your nasal passage, all of that. Well, here are some things to consider. Do you really, really, really have to perform? Do you really have to give that speech? Do you really have to sing? It might be worth it to look into canceling any engagements that you have while you're dealing with a cold or some kind of respiratory issue. Now, that of course would be ideal if you could say, oh, can we reschedule this? Or I'm feeling really bad. I really cannot sing today, or my voice is gone. I'm very hoarse. I can't deliver this speech. Now, if you and the event organizer can come to an agreement and decide to either postpone or cancel without any significant penalties or issues, then that would be perfect, right? But in the event that you cannot cancel, well, then here are some things that could help you to at least get through the performance until you can rest your voice properly. So, number one, you might want to avoid any really cold beverages and food. Sometimes I know for me, when I have a cold or something like that, which I actually do have now, sometimes those are the things I actually want to drink, like really cold water. I can't stand room temperature water, right? But ideally, you should have warmer things going down your throat. So again, room temperature water is great instead of the really chilled, frozen, semi-frozen water, and cold stuff like that, or cold beverages. Go for room temperature water, and warm water with honey, lemon, and ginger always works great. Now, the honey, yes, it's sugar, so if you want to avoid it, you can, but it does give a soothing effect as well. And with our lemon, that's a boost of vitamin C right there if you have a bit of lemon in that hot water. And we all know that vitamin C is good for our immune system. And then the ginger gives you that added boost of zinc. And zinc is also really good for protecting us and for our immune systems. And then it's also a bit of spice, a bit of heat, which would be good for clearing mucus and things of that nature. So honey, lemon, ginger, you really can't go wrong. Again, you can take out the honey if you wish and still have a good hot warm beverage. Now, on that note, let me say not too hot. You don't want to burn your throat. You want to soothe it. You want to soothe it, okay? And remember that this is going down your esophagus and not down your windpipe. So you will swallow it and it will give a soothing sensation as you swallow, and it will also go through your system and hopefully help to clear any mucosal buildup. The next thing is inhaling warm air. So steam inhalation is fantastic, especially if you're stuffed up, a lot of built up mucus. Get some steam in there and that really helps. Now, if you have like a personal steam inhaler, that's great. You can use that. If you have a humidifier that you can put in your room just to put a bit of moisture in dry air, that's also wonderful. Okay. You can also do, what we do here in my part of the world in Ghana, you can put some hot water into a pan, preferably maybe a metal or glass bowl that's large enough for you to put your head over it, then cover your head with a towel. Now, in that hot water, some people put mentholatum, menthol like Vicks or something like that. And there are some other, should we say, aromatherapy type herbal things that you can put in there. Some might want to use eucalyptus. Just put a few drops of that into your water. get some nice menthol steam going. Put a towel over your head, cover your head over the bowl, and just inhale that warm vapor. And that will also give you wonderful relief. You'll start to see that your passages start to clear up and mucus will start to drain. So make sure you've got some tissues handy and close to you to collect all of that. And do that if you can a couple of times a day. And it really does help. I mean, if you can do that even for 10 minutes in the morning and in the evening, it really does help. Okay, steam inhalation. Really great. When it comes to medication, now for people who have really severe allergies, you may be seeing a doctor who has prescribed some things for you. There's obviously over-the-counter medication that can help with allergies and with congestion and all of that. If you're taking something that has guaifenesin in it, and guaifenesin, we know for those of us who are familiar with these things, that helps to release mucus and dry up your mucus. That could be helpful. Antihistamines for your allergies. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that if you're a singer and if you're someone who speaks a lot, antihistamines can be drying. So while they're helping to decongest you and get rid of the allergy causing irritants, they can also leave you a bit dry, which means you have to really hydrate when you're taking those medications, or if possible, avoid them, which again, you've got to weigh the pros and cons of doing that. If you're someone who's really struggling with your allergies and you need that medication, then you have to take it, right? But just make sure that at the same time you're hydrating, you're replacing that moisture that's being lost so that you don't get too dry, because that can also affect your vocal sound, okay? So medications, just make sure you read the labels on your medication. Ask your doctor questions if you have questions about what you're taking. And even if you go to a pharmacy to pick something over the counter, you can talk to the pharmacist and ask them if it's something that might affect your voice or that might make you very dry, so that you know what to do as you're taking the medication. And remember, always follow instructions on how long you're supposed to take a particular medication so you don't overdo it, and how much of a dose as well. You don't want to overdose on anything. Now, I always say that if a cold is, should we say, in your nose, so if it's more nasal congestion that you're experiencing, for me, that's the lesser of two evils. The other evil being chest congestion. Because if your chest is all stuffed up and congested and full of mucus, that is a lot more, one, difficult to sing over, and two, dangerous, as far as having a congested chest, and you really need to seek some attention to get that taken care of if it's persistent, right? But if it's just kind of in your nose, what mine is right now because of all the dust from the Hamatan dry air, I normally get the sinus issues, which for me are chronic and it's really annoying. But with the nasal stuff, I personally think it's easier to sing with that. And you know what? In some cases, it might even help you a bit, because where you feel the congestion, which is around this area, which is where your sinuses kind of hide and where your singer's mask is, right? So that kind of helps you to place your sound there. Do you understand? So even though you're feeling a bit nasally, I'm in my nose, I've got a lot of mucus in there, feel like you want to blow your nose, or maybe you're just congested there, you want that mucus to move. But it could be easier to sing. I mean, even if you have to sing an Ave Maria, at least you've got something you can work with. But when it's in your chest, and let's say from throat down, you're hoarse, you're coughing a lot, and coughing not because of postnasal drip, but because there's a lot of mucus that's gathered in your chest, that is a lot more difficult, because every time you try to phonate or make a sound, you've got mucus coming up, Now, if you're not at the point where maybe your technique or your training is such that you know how to compensate for that, then you could end up doing more damage, more harm than good. But if you think your technique is solid enough to help you at least get through one performance or something you really can't cancel, then and you're experienced enough to do it, you might be able to go ahead. But again, proceed cautiously, because the thing about having a cold, if you overdo it, you're just going to exacerbate the problem. And then even when the cold is gone, you might end up having some vocal damage that you could have avoided. So I hope these tips were helpful, and we'll continue with our vocal series. If you have a question, you can send me a comment, and please do subscribe for more information on taking care of our voices and singing tips etc.